Thanks for joining us on this edition of Hometown News. Today we have with us a special guest. She is the first Latina prosecutor in the state of New Jersey and recently named one of the 100 most influential Hispanics in the country by Hispanic Business Magazine. Here with us today is Passaic County Prosecutor Camelia Valdez. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you have been on the job now almost 4 years, right? And I want to start by talking about what happened in Boston.
Yes.
Obviously, that's been a huge shock to everyone in the country and here in New Jersey. How has that impacted the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office?
As you can imagine, that incident really rocked all of us to the core as citizens and as people that are in law enforcement. The Passaic County Prosecutor's Office has an intelligence unit whose sole mission is to make sure that they stay current with information and are ready to respond when there is an incident such as Boston. Because the threat was not directly impacting the county or our state for that matter, that wasn't the information that we were receiving, we still remain very vigilant. We still stay in constant communication with our partners, both at the state level and at the federal level. We have tremendous relationships with the Office of Homeland Security and the Attorney General's office, so we were prepared for whatever would have come.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about how citizens play a big role here. I mean, what happened? The FBI got tons of pictures from people, and I guess this is a testament to what we can do, see something, say something.
Absolutely. I know that every day, in most of our cases, there is such a big component of our cases that are solved because the community supports, because the community comes forward, because the community gives us information. And now in the era of technology that we live in, everyone has access to a phone that can take pictures. And community involvement is critical, especially when there is an issue of law enforcement where it is not known who is the suspect or why, what the motivation was. So that input is absolutely critical to the work that we do.
So you would encourage residents not to hesitate if they're feeling a little uncomfortable?
No, absolutely not. I encourage all residents, if they see something that doesn't quite seem right or doesn't feel right to them, call law enforcement. We take those calls very seriously, and we have people that are there to make sure that they are eliciting the proper information so that we can follow up with whatever may be happening and hopefully prevent, an incident that could affect all of us.
Absolutely. And as I just said before, you've been on the job almost 4 years here in Passaic County. What have you noticed in the past 4 years? Certain crimes have increased, decreased. What's been your observation?
What we find, or what I have found, is that most crime is cyclical. So we may have upticks in shootings, and then they come back down. When the shootings, and they're not necessarily related one to the other. Sometimes we have an uptick in shootings and then they go down. Sometimes we have an uptick in child abuse cases, and it's very hard to predict when that will happen, what causes it to happen. Certainly when there's weather changes, weather patterns, there are more people outside, there are more people interacting with one another, so there has a greater potential that there might be incidents. What we make sure that we try to do in the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office is that we're ready. We're ready, and our people are trained to handle these incidents when they do happen.
And recently, the Attorney General's office, ever since this horrible tragedy in Newtown, as you know, has started ramping up its efforts with the gun buyback program.
Yes.
And your office has jumped on board.
Yes. We are working in lockstep with the Attorney General's office. We're going to be hosting a county-wide gun buyback program May 3rd and May 4th. We're going to have a location in Patterson and a location in Passaic. And the way the gun buyback program works is it is an anonymous amnesty program where if you turn in a handgun, you will be able to obtain cash for that firearm. And the thought behind it is we want to make sure that we are taking as many firearms off the street as possible. And so far to date, I think the last number that I heard, that because of the Attorney General's leadership in this area, about 9,100 firearms have been taken off the streets. And certainly from my perspective, if one firearm is taken off the street, that's one less potential shooting, one less potential homicide in our county. So May 3rd and May 4th, Passaic County will certainly, you'll see the literature, you'll see a lot more advertising about it. We're going to be hosting those.
And people that turn in the guns are anonymous.
It's anonymous. There are no questions asked, and when we say that, we mean that. Because the thought is we want to make sure these firearms get off the street.
So these residents, they don't have to be from Passaic County. You can come from
No. They
anywhere.
don't have to be from Passaic County. We are going to be at St. Anthony's of Padua Roman Catholic Church in Passaic, and we're going to be at Gilmore Tabernacle Church in Patterson on Haledon Avenue. And residents from all over could come and turn in their firearms.
Great, great. Any other programs that you want to talk about that the Passaic County Prosecutor's doing?
We have the gun buyback is May 3rd and May 4th. We also are sponsoring our annual Candlelight Vigil, April 28th, and that will be at Passaic County Community College. The purpose of the vigil is to give surviving families of victims of crime an opportunity to come together with other families to remember, to celebrate the lives of their lost ones, and to be in community with other survivors. It is a very powerful event. Always solemn, but the purpose is to try to leave from there knowing that other people might possibly understand that pain and the sorrow of that loss. And so that's happening on the 28th of April.
All right, I want to switch gears a little bit. Obviously, we all know you as Passaic County Prosecutor fighting crime, but when you're home, you do have two girls that have autism.
Yes.
And
I am the proud parent of an 8-year-old, Isabella, and a 6-year-old, Elsa. Beautiful, smart, sneaky, funny girls, both who have autism. So in many ways, that is my real job. I always, I tease with my friends and say that the prosecutor's job is that's how I pay my bills. But really, my life's work and my real job is that of a special needs mom to two girls who are vibrant, but who are disabled. And so it's eliciting their development, is making sure that they get the therapies they need, the support that they need in order to be able to develop. That is the real job.
Now, April is Autism Awareness Month.
Yes.
Having raised two girls for the past 8 years now, what do you want people to know about autism this month?
What I would encourage people to know is that there is hope. And because so little is known and there is misinformation about what autism is and what autism is not, what I would encourage parents or if you know someone with autism is to really learn the disorder. There's so many misperceptions about what it is, but autistic children, even if they are siblings like my girls, it manifests differently in each one. So each child is very uniquely different, and they're differently able. They may have talents that I would never have or you would never have, but if you embrace the diagnosis, if you don't shy away from it, if you don't try to forget that that it is a disorder that is affecting so many children. The last statistics I've heard are 1 in 44 children in New Jersey are affected. Just embrace it, because there is hope.
And lastly, about autism, you have a walk that you usually do?
Yes, I usually organize a team, and we work at Bergen County Community College. This year, the Autism Walk is May 19th, and we will be out there. Team Isabella and Team Elsa, we will be out there walking to make sure that we are raising awareness and doing our part.
Great. And last question here. So before I mentioned that you're the first Latina prosecutor in New Jersey, recently named one of the 100 most influential Hispanics in the country. So, I mean, you grew up in Newark, just like everyone else. I mean, but you had opportunities. So what is your advice to people who, might be against odds but want to do something great?
My advice is to not give up and to listen to your own sort of inner voice. You already know what to do. Find yourself surrounded with people who are positive, who will encourage your dream, even if they are as crazy as you are, to think that you can do something different. Those are the types of people that you find in your life. Because I tell you, all of the work that I do as prosecutor and as a special needs mom, I don't do alone. I do it because I have the tremendous support of my family, of friends, of mentors, and also I am very much aware that there are generations coming behind me who have never seen a woman or a Latina woman from Newark in this very visible, very powerful, very influential role. So to the extent that I can spend any time with them, encouraging them to work hard, and don't be distracted by the things that we hear about all the time. Issues of sexism and racism, I mean, those are unfortunately are things that we all have to deal with in one form or the other. My advice is just keep going, just keep moving forward, because whether you do a thing or you don't do a thing, time will pass. I'd rather do a thing and fail at it than not do it at all.
And for you, you were telling me before, your parents were just happy if you were to graduate high school?
My parents just wanted me to do what they couldn't do, which is to get a high school diploma. And so when I graduated from Barringer High School in Newark, I looked around and I thought to myself that I wanted to serve. Ultimately, I chose the law because I felt that the law gave me the best opportunity to be able to serve not only my community, not only women, not only people of color, but residents and people who just want to live in safe communities. And fortunately, I've had the kind of public service career that has allowed me to do that. And so for that, I'm very grateful. But again, don't do it by myself. A lot of tremendous partners that are there in the trenches having these very difficult conversations about how do you develop communities and how do you keep communities safe. And it's a daily task.
All right, Passaic County Prosecutor Camelia Valdez, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for all the work that you do, too.
Thank you so much.
And that wraps up our interview with Passaic County Prosecutor. Stay with us. We will have more news after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Today in our studios, we have with us Passaic County Prosecutor Camelia Valdez. Camelia, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously last week with the bombing at the Boston Marathon, everyone's shocked. And just yesterday, we learned of another terror plot in Canada. We want to talk about how is the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office being aware of things like this that are happening? What's happening that we can be proactive about?
The Passaic County Prosecutor's Office has an intelligence unit that its sole purpose is to make sure that it is obtaining information, verifying sources of information, and working with our partners within the county, with all of our municipalities, with our sheriff, who's such an integral part of the work that we do every day, and with our state partners, the Office of the Attorney General and the Office of Homeland Security. And what we do is, as citizens and as members of law enforcement, we make sure that we stay current, that we verify the information that we're getting, and that we are educating not only ourselves, but the residents of the county. And we certainly encourage residents, if they see something that doesn't sit well with them, that doesn't seem right to them, to please reach out to law enforcement, reach out to your police departments, reach out to our office, reach out to the sheriff's department within the county, and just report what it is that you see that doesn't quite sit well with you. Because we have found that the best way to stay vigilant and to stay proactive is to make sure that we're in constant dialogue with residents about what they see.
And you work with the Department of Homeland Security on terrorism issues if they arise?
We, under the direction of Director Dixon, who is a former federal agent, he is now at the helm of the Office of Homeland Security. And our office is in constant communication with that office because we're making sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect the county. If there is an incident, are we prepared to deal with it? How are we safeguarding our resources? So those are conversations that you don't have in isolation. You have to have it with the people who really are doing this work at the state level, at the federal level, and the prosecutor's office is certainly right in the center of all of those conversations.
And for residents who, they're out and about in their daily routine, they see something that doesn't sit well with them. Where do you recommend they turn via, whether it be phone or internet?
Everywhere. turn everywhere. We all have a responsibility to safeguard our communities. And what we find is that we live in uncertain times. And so you never know when the next incident will happen or how it would happen. And while we all are going about our daily lives, we have to remember that it is really up to us to make sure that we're doing our part and that we're playing our role. And if something is not quite right, trust that instinct and call the police. And if you can go online and you can find out what is happening and a lot of times when an incident like this happens, there's many theories as to why it's happening or who's actually responsible for it. Don't let that deter you from the work that you have to do as a concerned citizen. And if you see a suspicious package, if you see that someone is not acting right or appropriately, it's okay to call. And in fact, we encourage it because we need those leads and those tips from the public.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the way it seems a lot of these big cases have been solved, is through the residents.
Absolutely. And whether we're talking about Boston or we're talking in the county about shootings or robberies, so many times our office, my office, relies on information that comes from the residents. And I want to encourage residents to put aside whatever apprehensions they may have in dealing with law enforcement to report the information, and then law enforcement will do its job from there.
Great. Thank you for your time, Passaic County Prosecutor.
Thank you.
That is our interview for now, but stay tuned. We will have more news after the break.